Well, it never stops, does it? Today, a mass resignation. Federal prosecutors saying they are fed up. Fed up. The number one prosecutor working for the U.S. Attorney's Office, the biggest figure in reducing fraud and busting fraudsters in Minnesota, is so fed up, he quit. Is this enough for you to believe that the ICE action going on in Minneapolis, in St. Paul, in Minnesota has nothing to do with fraud? It is Tuesday, another day, another massive national story out of Minneapolis. It's Jason Mark Fry updating you on the news. Dan is here. 651-461-9226. ICE's action here has nothing to do with fraud. Nothing to do with fraud. The headline breaking right around noon today: 6 prosecutors so fed up with the political approach in investigating the ICE shooting in Minneapolis. 6 prosecutors quitting. I am going to be fascinated to hear what those of you who took Joe Thompson's word as gospel when Joe said that the fraud in Minnesota was about $9 billion. That was his estimate. And that number has been given as like, this is the official number. Now, I have seen evidence of around $1 billion in fraud, but Joe said 9. Many people said, well, whatever Joe says, he's a prosecutor. He's respected. 9 billion. Well, what do you say today? If you're a supporter of Pam Bondi, if you're a supporter of Donald Trump, that this guy who should be held up as one of the great prosecutors and investigators in recent times in Minnesota, not just the fraud prosecution, but Joe Thompson has been a part of reducing gun crimes in Minnesota and prosecuting Vance Belter for terrorizing our political class here in Minnesota. When he said, I'm out, I can't do it, enough. Doesn't that do anything to you? Doesn't that make you say, I'm a Trump supporter, but, I wonder if they're going a little too far? I'm going to be real interested to see how Minnesota Republicans handle this, because I just think when you look at how transparent Joe Thompson has been, how open he has been to the public, he's come on shows on this station. He's answered a ton of questions at news conferences. He's been very open about fraud and very vocal about it. And in fact, if you ask me, who is the single biggest figure that led to Governor Tim Walz saying that he's out, he's not going to run again, to me, it's not the YouTuber. It's not Nick Shirley. It's Joe Thompson. Joe Thompson, by laying out how massive fraud there has been, and by laying out the culture that led to it in the state of Minnesota, to me, that is, well, right after Joe's news conference, I came on the air and said, I think Tim Walz is done. Here's what the initial reporting is. And at 5 o'clock today, we're going to have Anders Fogh, who was the acting U.S. attorney. He knows Joe Thompson. He knows a lot of these attorneys. Anders is running for Hennepin County attorney right now, but he's going to come on the show. And some of these people that have stepped down today, Anders hired. And he told me earlier today, never in his career has he ever seen anything like this before in the District of Minnesota. This is huge. 6 federal prosecutors who have who have been through a lot, right? Who have for sure felt political pressure before, say they're out. Now, two reasons, and I welcome your input on both of these things. One is what I started with. I maintain that the ICE push and surge here in Minnesota has nothing to do with fraud in Minnesota. Fraud was used as a pretext to do a full, let's get anybody who is here illegally out of Minnesota. Let's rain down on Minnesota because no one will accuse us of being politically motivated. They will say, well, they're trying to get rid of the fraud. Only problem with that is the fraud, the fraudsters who have been prosecuted have overwhelmingly been from the Somali community. And most of the Somali community is here legally. Most of the Somali community is here legally. So why are these guys stepping down? New York Times and the Star Tribune both reporting on this. The New York Times is saying that the Justice Department's push to investigate Renee Good's widow and the department's push to investigate Renee Good herself. So Joe Thompson was number 2 at that office. The Justice Department wanted Renee Good's widow, to be investigated. Now, you would think that federal investigators would do a civil rights investigation to see if the federal officer who used deadly force was justified. They decided not to do that. Instead, they launched an investigation to figure out if Renee Good and her wife, Becca, are tied to various funding mechanisms and if they were being paid to be out there protesting. Now, the Star Tribune reported that part of the reason for the investigation is frustration that they want to fight fraud and the massive resources being deployed to fight illegal immigration was distracting and taking away all of the resources that were supposed to be investigating fraud. We don't exactly know why, but we do know that there was a prosecutor several prosecutors in the Civil Rights Division at the Justice Department in Washington who resigned. And that was reported by MS Now on Monday. So this is the weaponization of the Justice Department. The Trump campaign went on and on and on about the weaponization of the Justice Department against Donald Trump by the Biden administration. And so instead of forging a new path, doing things better, what they are doing is saying, you thought you guys weaponized the Justice Department. Look at what we're going to do. To me, the idea that in the week after a federal agent killed a U.S. citizen in Minneapolis, that career prosecutors should be investigating her widow is disgusting and offensive and shocking and ridiculous. Should you investigate that at a year from now after you're done with this? I guess if you think that's important. But what are we doing? To me, it's absolutely out of control. 651-461-9226. I applaud their integrity, says one texter, but quitting only opens the positions to Trump loyalists. Can't they stay and resist? I don't know. I mean, at a certain point, if you're a prosecutor, and right now, the number one thing that federal prosecutors should be doing in this district of Minnesota is investigating whether that ICE agent was in the right or not. To me, there's nothing more serious than when an agent of the government uses deadly force against a citizen. And there are probably more times than not where that use of deadly force is justified. But man, you better investigate the crap out of it, right? Jason, I think this is a bad move. If they're right, they should fight until they're fired. Quitting looks like surrender. Is this how you guys are twisting yourself in knots to make sure you don't say, gosh, I think Donald Trump has gone too far? You can support President Trump. You can support his economic policies. You can even defend the fact that you voted for him over Joe Biden. And you're not going to be struck down by lightning if you say, this looks bad. It looks bad, doesn't it? I mean, is this that hard? Jason, this ICE action is nothing but actions of the dictator Donald Trump. We've gone back to barbaric times thanks to ignorant Republicans and Democrats. Another texter, oh, well, somebody else will fill the position. Ah, God, love you guys. I mean, I love it. You're so dedicated. This is the end of any sort of rational discourse on politics. If we can't criticize our own people, then what motivation do our elected officials ever have to do anything for us? They can do whatever they want because goofballs are going to twist themselves into 10,000 knots to defend themselves. 6 career federal prosecutors stepped down today. If that is not enough to make you say, like, oh, my goodness, something here might be going wrong, then I guess bow down, kiss the ring, whatever the leader says you're into. 651-461-9226. More feedback from you when we come back.
Listening to Drive Time.
Mass resignation of career prosecutors, 6 of them at the U.S. Attorney's Office in Minneapolis stepping down over frustration over the way that the Department of Justice wants to investigate the ICE shooting of Nicole Good in Minneapolis. Let's go to Butch in Andover. Butch, you're on CCO. Go ahead. Oh, hang
curious.
on. Go ahead, Butch.
All right, I'm just curious. I don't understand what people are missing the point here. I mean, it's sad. It's horrible that she got shot and killed, but I mean, what were they doing there? They were agitating ICE, interfering with their job. And I mean, you put yourself in that situation, things could happen like they did.
Yeah, I agree that it's a dangerous situation, but I also would say that there are very clear rules about when law enforcement is allowed to use deadly force, and having a full investigation of what went on here feels like a bare minimum to me.
Oh, yeah, definitely. Wait till it all plays out.
But how is it playing out? The Department of Justice has decided not to do an investigation on their end, a civil rights investigation, which has been standard procedure for the federal government, but they're not doing that. And then 6 prosecutors are like, all right, forget it. We're out.
Right. Yeah, I guess. No, there should be an investigation, but I'm just saying an ICE officer is a police officer, a national police officer, and even shame on the sheriff's office who I work for and the Minneapolis Police Department without assisting them. I mean, if you are here legally, you have nothing to worry about. Go about your everyday life.
Well, I don't want to get into the details about that, but to you, isn't it a red flag when 6 career prosecutors, including the #1 prosecutor of fraud in Minnesota, all resigned today? When we were all, everybody calling this show and defending the ICE action in Minnesota, we're saying that they're fighting fraud. They're not fighting fraud.
You don't think so?
No, I do think that they're going after people who are here illegally. And I'm not in favor of people who are here illegally being here. But also, like, more importantly, I'm not in favor of law enforcement abusing their authority.
Oh, well, yeah, exactly. If they're abusing it, that's one thing.
Yeah.
That's
is
totally
it
wrong.
Yes or no to you, Butch? Is it a red flag that 6 career prosecutors are stepping down because of the way the Trump administration's Department of Justice is running this investigation?
Honestly, I don't understand why. like the one caller or the texter said, they're quitting when they shouldn't be, and maybe the pressure has gotten to them. And, you know, I mean, to be honest with you, Walls and Ellison, they should all step down. I mean, this is ridiculous what's going on here with the fraud.
All right, Butch, thank you. I mean, is it a red flag or not? I'm getting no from Butch. Yosef in St. Louis Park, you're on CCO. Is it a red flag to you that 6 prosecutors are stepping down today?
Well, possibly. It depends. If they are, you know, dyed-in-the-wool Democrats who are towing a party line, then it's not a red flag. If that's the opposite, then perhaps it is. But I'll tell you why. What I want.
And this was the chief. This was the chief fraud prosecutor. I think Democrats were saying that he's exaggerating the problem. Republicans were saying this guy's amazing, and now today Republicans are saying like, oh gosh, I don't know, maybe he's like a Trump hater. Like we just twist ourselves into these knots. Go ahead, Josh.
Yeah. Can I mention, to respond to your point before I make my point?
Sure.
I mean, from what I understand, this guy who stepped down, Thompson, was one of the people who was supposedly in the running to be picked as the lead attorney here in Minnesota, but was not.
Correct.
And, you know,
that's true.
Maybe that's a little part of it. Maybe not. But what I wanted to say, I wanted to really ask you, do you trust the Justice Department to make a judgment on whether this requires criminal investigation? Do you trust them?
It's a good question. I do trust the FBI to do an investigation. Do I trust the political people to be fair and follow what law enforcement investigators find out? No.
So then my follow-up to that is, if that's the case, why would you expect the Justice Department to trust the state to do it when the state seems to have, especially under our governor, et cetera, a vested interest in a certain outcome, namely that the ICE agent is guilty of murder?
I would say that,
my point over here?
Yeah, but the way we do things in law enforcement is we share the information, and then if you want to fight out what people decide at the end, then you fight that out. When you shut down the sharing of information, the state of Minnesota was never going to be the lead agency here. It was always going to be the federal government, as it should be. But when you shut out the state from the discovery, the evidence, the DNA, the black box of the car that Nicole Good was in, well, then what you're saying is that we're closing all this up and we're going to do it our way, which
right. Or they may also be saying that we know the state has a desired outcome, and no matter what happens, that's where it's going to go. And we don't want to be caught up in that. I mean,
I think we would agree. We would agree, Yosef, that one of the tragedies of the way our discourse is today is that within hours of what happened, the head of the Department of Homeland Security pronounced the victim, in this case, a domestic terrorist, which she could not have possibly known. There was no investigation to get there. And also the people on the state side who said it was a homicide, it was a murder. Well, they had no way of knowing that either. So it is.
Well,
I wish we could. Go ahead.
I certainly agree to the second point you said. The first one, maybe Christy Nell looked at it and said, "Hey, you know what?
Yosef, you can't. Yosef, Yosef.
It could be that Miss Good was trying to drive away, but from the point of view of the ICE agent, she was coming at him.
Domestic terror, domestic terrorist, though. Come on, Yosef. Like no.
Well, if she was coming at him, yeah, I would.
Then
say
she was trying to. I don't know. All right, thank you, Joseph. I think we just heard 2 callers that explain precisely where we are as a country today, didn't we? 2 callers who both expressed fundamental beliefs and then refuse to apply those fundamental beliefs to the side that they agree with. This is what I'm getting at. Like, let's try to apply these fundamental beliefs to everybody. It is not that difficult to say, man, 6 prosecutors all quit today? That's not good. Let's go to Lucy in Hopkins. Lucy, thanks for calling. You're on CCO.
Hi, I'm a retired attorney, and I'm also a retired minister. And what a lot of people don't know about the legal profession is that if you are a prosecutor, one of your ethical obligations is to see that justice is done. That doesn't necessarily mean jailing everybody right and left. It certainly doesn't mean making prosecutorial decisions for political reasons. I have to wonder if that's part of the reason those prosecutors resigned, is that they were being forced not to do justice.
That's it. Certainly seems that is their perception, right? That they were told to investigate the widow of Renee Good instead of investigating whether the ICE agent was in the right. And also, they were investigating billions of dollars of fraud in this state. And now they're dealing with all of this stuff related to the surge of federal immigration authorities here in Minnesota. So you can see why they maybe said enough. Lucy, thank you. Thanks, everybody.